My name is Ellie. I'm the executive director and founder of Everblue. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Oregon that encourages our audience to live more ocean conscious lifestyles by increasing their scientific literacy. Now, normally when I present at scientific conferences like the IMCC6, I follow a pattern that looks kind of like this. I'd give a general background on my topic of study, pose my research question, tell you a little bit about my experimental methods, analyze my results, and then follow it all up with a sweeping conclusion of what I had learned. But this conference, coming to you as the founder of a nonprofit, I decided to shake things up just a little bit. And first, I spoke about the issue that Everblue is trying to solve, the need that we serve. Then I talked about our solution, our mission, a little bit about our brand new program, Laboratory Collaborations, the research that shows that our education and outreach actually works for conservation, and a little bit about how you can get involved. So with that, let's go ahead and dive back in. The ocean is currently threatened by many urgent, unprecedented problems. The good news is that we have scientists around the world, many of whom were actually at the conference with us, doing truly incredible research to understand and combat these issues. However, this research is often unnoticed by or inaccessible to the public. Think about this from the perspective of your cousin, friend, neighbor, maybe yourself if you're not in a lab on a daily basis. The paywalls on research journals and the scientific jargon, that's basically a foreign language, make it really difficult for non-scientists to access science. Outside of that, there's the simple fact that most people are too busy to be bothered to read a 10-page paper or even a full newspaper article. So we're left with world-changing science that gets stuck in scientific circles, never to venture to ears outside maybe a few who are curious enough to read the latest press release on yet another coral bleaching event. So how do we bridge this gap? Enter Everblue. Our nonprofit was born in 2017 as a response to this problem and the question of how to bridge the gap between published science and public use. We began as a group of marine scientists working with communicators and educators to translate current research on the ocean into understandable sound bites on social media and actionable ways that you can help, even and especially if you aren't a scientist. These research posts and tip posts are part of our science translation program. We inform our audience about what's going on by summarizing recent published papers, specifically published papers about issues in the ocean, give them specific actions that they can take to address the issue that science highlights, and then give them the citation in case they do want to dig further into the topic that we cover. It's education meets call to action. And over the past 3 years, it's been working. And then about 2 years ago, we realized that what we were doing with our science translation program was actually a model that could be useful to scientists themselves, not just our audience. Because as much as people need education to boost their science literacy, scientists need exciting and effective new ways to communicate their findings. Now, when you're a scientist, when you go to apply for a grant to do your research, most big funding companies now are requiring scientists to fill out a section in the grant called broader impacts. And now this isn't new. Broader impacts have been around for a while, but within the last decade, it's become increasingly important that broader impacts, outreach, and education are done really, really well for research. And now, if you are a scientist, many of you at one point or another have probably thought, either I don't have the resources to do effective outreach, I don't have an audience to educate, or maybe just I don't have the time. After all, researchers are expected to do effective broader impact work on top of already performing their own research, writing published papers, running a lab, being in charge of different grad students, possibly even teaching university classes. So then Everblue comes in as a group that could help. With you in mind, we launched our brand new laboratory collaborations program earlier this year. We like to call them Lab Collabs for short. Now, Lab Collabs allow Everblue to work directly with research scientists to communicate their research in action, rather than only summarizing the finished product of published papers. There's also the added bonus of increased public trust for the process of science once they get to see behind the scenes. Through our Lab Collabs, Everblue functions as a sort of contracting organization for outreach. You email us with a description of the research project that you are applying for a grant for, and then you work with us to set a timeline for the outreach that you want, and then you let us do the rest. Now, I do have to say, when COVID-19 hit, it kind of threw a wrench in our plans for growing our laboratory collaborations program. Remember, I did say that we launched it earlier this year in the middle of 2020. But instead of squandering the months that the whole Everblue team was stuck at home, we decided to add a new aspect to our laboratory collaborations. So along with doing personalized social media outreach for your lab, we will also create an at-home lesson plan tailored to the topic of your research. Over the 2 to 3 months that the Everblue team had spent in quarantine, our team put out 8 interactive at-home lessons that are easy for parents to use and fun for students. And all of these are available for download for free on our website at oceaneverblueorg/education. And the best part about all of this is our outreach really works. 86% of our followers feel that Everblue has given them the information and education necessary to make specific changes concerning the issues facing our ocean. Our audience is listening and intaking the information that we post on our social media pages, our website, and our email newsletters. And this survey that we did of our audience from 2019 shows that. On top of that, research from the Ocean Project back in 2015 found that while the public is really interested in learning about ocean issues, widespread knowledge of these issues actually still remains pretty low. And even though people want to learn about the issues facing the ocean, people also appreciate learning ways that they could be a part of the solution on top of that. And now when people are looking for this kind of information about the ocean issues, people are increasingly looking to the internet, which, as we all know, could be an issue because of all of the misinformation that is kind of running rampant on the internet right now. So people need a resource like Everblue that they can trust, where they could connect with real scientists to learn about the data as it's actually coming out. Furthermore, integrating the internet into people's experience of science can actually reinforce the information that they learn. It provides them with a community and allows them to feel a part of it through applications that are already at their fingertips. Now, our first 2 laboratory collaborations with the Pacific Northwest Consortium on Plastics and Dr. James McClintock's lab at the University of Alabama are already set in motion. Now, if you want to get your laboratory involved in our outreach, if you're a scientist and you're looking for help with broader impacts, the process is really, really simple. All you have to do is email us at keeptheoceaneverbblue@gmail.com with a description of your research. You work with us to set a timeline. So whether you want us to do outreach for you throughout the entire duration of your research project, or maybe just for a small subsection, we will work with whatever you're looking for. Then you set up with an interview with the Everblue team so we could learn about your project and gather information for content that we create. During this interview, we'll also get to chat with you about the kinds of outreach that you're looking for, whether you're looking for extensive blog posts, lots of social media involvement, whether you want specific education lesson plans, or if you're looking for any other kind of outreach. We are willing to work with you for whatever you're looking for. And then after that, you just let us do the rest, and we'll update you on the progress as we do outreach for your research project. Now, during the talk that I gave at IMCC6, I actually had the audience help me come up with a research translation for a paper that the Everblue team found to use for one of our education lesson plans way back in March, in the spring of this year. Now, this paper was written by Dr. Kelly Sutherland from the University of Oregon and was entitled "A Comparison of Filtration Rates Among Pelagic Tunicates Using Kinematic Measurements." So I read out this sentence at the bottom of the slide here to my audience. And then I assigned all of these big fancy science words to different members of the audience and had them try to come up with a way to translate this sentence so that people could understand what a SALP is. And if you're watching this and you're not a scientist, or maybe if you're watching this but you are a scientist but you've never worked with invertebrates before, you might already be thinking, oh my goodness, what on earth is a SALP? And so we've got a picture down here in the bottom right-hand corner, just so you can get a little bit of an image of what it looks like. And then the paper had said, SALPs, a type of pelagic tunicate, are common gelatinous holoplankton in oceanic waters that occur mainly in surface waters, but sometimes to depths in excess of 1,000 meters. They swim by jet propulsion, drawing water in through the oral siphon and using muscle bands encircling the cylindrical body to eject water from the atrial siphon. Oh my goodness. For anyone who's a SALP expert out there in the audience right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for anyone who's not, that was probably a whole lot of words that just went in one ear and out the other. And so, using my audience, we translated what a SALP is into a turbo-powered floaty ocean jellyfish with a geyser at the rear end, which really isn't wrong. And then on the next slide, I went ahead and gave the translation that the Everblue team came up with for our lesson plan that is available for download on our website. So the Everblue's translation was, a SALP is a squishy animal that lives in the open ocean. Scientists call the open ocean the pelagic zone. Even though SALPs look like squishy jellyfish, they're actually one of our closest relatives. They're in the family chordates. Now take a deep breath in and feel your lungs expand. Then let that breath go and imagine that it's a jet of water pushing you through the ocean. That's how SALPs move. And so this is the kind of work that the Everblue team does on a weekly basis. We don't do this kind of translation work just when we're writing our education lesson plans. We do this every single day of the week so that we can put out information about current published research papers, translated into a way that's more digestible and understandable for our audience, especially for those who aren't already scientists. And so in our presentation, I just wanted to give the audience a little bit of a feel of what it's like to do this kind of research translation work. And also why it's so important, because hopefully if you're watching now, you have a better idea of what a SALP is. And also they're really quite beautiful. So if you're curious, go on YouTube and look up SALPs. Now, thank you so much for coming onto YouTube, for listening to this talk, getting to hear me talk about our programs and what I presented on at the IMCC6. If you are interested in joining our program, if you are a scientist, then like I said earlier, please email us at keeptheoceaneverbblue@gmail.com. We would love to work with you and to help you with whatever outreach you need on your next exciting research project. And if you're curious about learning more, if you're not a scientist, please follow us at Ocean Everblue on all of our social media sites, and visit our website, oceaneverblue.org. All of our information that I talked about today is available on the website. And like I said, if you follow us on social media, you'll get this kind of research translation work and scientific communication and outreach on your social media on a daily basis.